So for me, it's the strength and conditioning and to gain athleticism. I always found it interesting with working in Major League Baseball. When you'd get down to spring training in the end of February, the trainers could always give you a heads up onto who they were excited to see and who they were looking forward to see. And they would say, I can't wait for you to see player X. He's killed it in the off season. He's worked harder than anyone else. And those guys seemed like they were 100% in that assessment. That player that really did everything he could in the off season and dedicated himself to the off season program, the strength and conditioning, the lifting, the plyometrics, the nutrition, always had successful years. And sometimes it was the opposite. They would say, I'm not looking forward to, or I'm not expecting a lot out of this guy because he did nothing this off season. The younger the player, especially in the high school and college player, and I train a lot of players year round, I'm telling my players now, let's say if it's the beginning of November, what you do in the next 4 months is going to impact your season more than the season itself. Because a lot of times you'll hear players say, well, I can't wait for the season to start, or I'm nervous for the season to start, or I don't know how I'm going to be, or I can't wait to see how I'm going to do. You're deciding your future in the next 4 months. What you do in the off season is going to have a direct correlation to your success or failure during the season, especially where we live up here in the Northeast where the high school season is so short. It's a month to 6 weeks. So when you look at the time frame for that, you're not going to have a lot of time to develop during that high school season. And not to mention, a lot of these teams, when they have tryouts, they don't have much of a preseason. They may have tryouts and the season starts 10 days later. So if you're not in shape to start tryouts, you're either not going to be ready to produce during the season or you're going to get hurt because you're trying to get ready too fast. So this question became really relevant during COVID, our first round of COVID, where the gyms were closed, the indoor training facilities were closed, players had no choice but to get creative at home. And there are tons of things you can do by yourself and at home. Even before COVID, when I would train players, especially a younger player that didn't have his license, I always felt guilty if I put something on his training plate that involved mom or dad driving him to a facility, paying money to rent the cage. So I've always been creative with programs at home. My favorite thing, two favorite things for a hitter to do at home is to hit off a tee and to take dry swings. And dry swings is even taking a step back from the tee where all you're doing is taking a practice swing. And if you were to take that practice swing as hard as you can and hold your balance, hold your finish position, even 15 to 20 of those a day is going to be almost as important as going to the cages every day. Because when that baseball is thrown to you, you're going to react every time. So if I throw you 100 pitches, different locations, different speeds, you may use a different swing. But when you're swinging against air for that dry swing, you're getting the perfect repetition. Now, you do have to swing full speed, and you do have to hold your finish. If you were to do it half speed, you're not going to get anything out of it. I know when I played, I would use the mirrors a lot, and not even to swing, just to work on my approach, my load, loading my hands, loading my weight, just to visualize, see what it looked like compared to what it felt like. So from the hitting end, hitting off a tee, and you can do that in your basement, you can do that outside, you don't need a net, you can hang a sheet up. You can get a lot done with dry swings and hitting off a tee. Definitely if you're going to hit off a tee, you can work on your inside pitches, your middle pitches, your outside pitches up, down in the zone. And for defense, the old school thing that you hear about back in the 50s is throwing the tennis ball off the wall, off of a concrete wall, or throwing a baseball to a pitchback. You can get unlimited repetitions in that. You can work on your arm. I don't see it that often, but you can drive by a baseball field and see a kid with a bag of balls out in center field, throwing balls to the plate, run down and get those, throw them back to center field. It's amazing how much you can truly get done on your own, and that's just from a pure baseball standpoint. It's amazing some of the personalized gyms that I've seen, the baseball-specific training gyms. It's underwhelming in the point of equipment. Back when I was training for baseball, there was more weights and Nautilus equipment. And now it's almost less is more. It's a lot of polyballs, it's a lot of band, it's a lot of resistance, it's a lot of technique. So I would make the argument that you can do more strength training at home now than you ever could in the past. So there's plenty of strength and conditioning and hitting and fielding drills that you can do by yourself at home. Nutrition to me is one of the most important parts, especially for the young player, only because they're not looking at nutrition the way an adult would. Most of these kids don't have an ounce of fat on them. So when you're talking to them about nutrition, it's not going to be met with the same type of excitement, but it's really the fuel that's going into the body. Most players need to take in a gram of protein every day for every pound that they want to weigh. So if you want to weigh 200 pounds, you have to take in 200 grams of protein a day. Basically, if you're lifting without protein in your body, you can't build muscle. So the diet can really influence not just how much muscle you gain, but how you perform as an athlete. And if you go online, or if you get into some of the hardcore nutritionists, you can get a list of what to eat the night before the game, what not to eat the night before the game. Well, I was shocked to learn. I mean, when I played baseball and football in high school, we were always concerned with the pregame meal or what you would eat for breakfast. And as you go through the nutrition, that's almost irrelevant. They'll go back to 48 hours before. You know, what do you want to eat the day before you will run a marathon? What do you want to drink during the marathon? What do you want to eat after the marathon? And with engineered foods and supplements nowadays, it can be really confusing to navigate as far as what's healthy and what you should be taking and what's truly a supplement, what you're using as a crutch. But I think the nutrition is something that most players don't really embrace. I think it kind of gets put to the wayside, especially if they're not looking to really gain or lose a lot of weight. I think it gets put by the wayside. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed, please leave us a like. If you have a question for me that you'd like answered, please leave it in the comment section below. If you want to stay up to date on Scoutbook or any future content, please follow or subscribe below. Thanks for watching.